What's up, influencers? Welcome to our channel, Video Influencers, where we're helping build your influence, income, impact with online videos. That's right, we're gonna be talking about YouTube, going full time, but making money because you gotta pay the bills. You gotta create a lifestyle around this platform, and it's hard. So we're gonna be talking to a very special guest, and we're gonna talk about the best practices, how to do this, and we're gonna talk about how she dropped out of high school and became a full-time YouTuber. So without further ado, let's get this started. Boom, you guys, welcome. This is Video Influencers, and we've got weekly tips videos as well as interviews with some of the dopest influencers on this platform. So make sure you subscribe if you're new to this channel, but we're gonna get into it, and I want to introduce my guest, Jade Dharma Wongsa. She is an amazing influencer, is crushing it on YouTube. She's got about 300,000 subscribers. If not, she's definitely going to hit that. She's creating content like crazy, not just on YouTube, but on Instagram. And I'll tell you, like the stuff that she's dropping, wisdom, tactics, and she's got a fresh perspective. And we're going to get into that. But I'm telling you, like, literally, millions of views. She's using all these platforms, and she's helping you guys. In fact, her catchphrase is helping you share your message better. Is that correct, Jade?
Hey everybody, yes it is. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here on Video Influencers. I'm excited to jump in, but let me tell the audience a little bit about you. You dropped out of high school, like what, 16 years old?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Most people, when they talk about dropping out, they're dropping out of college. You dropped out of high school. When you told me that, I was like, well, that's kind of crazy because usually, just the percentages is when you drop out of high school, usually life gets really hard for you, right? Like you get right to a job, which nothing wrong with that.
You call it job too?
Yeah.
That's how my dad calls it.
Oh man, because we're old like that. I don't know. It's from the 80s or 90s, right? And what's unique about you is you went into YouTube. In fact, you were already doing YouTube, and I'm sure there's different reasons why you dropped down. We want to dive into that. But you basically were a natural entrepreneur, but you definitely were into business. Mm-hmm. And now you're running multiple businesses on top of creating content for YouTube. You're on Instagram. You're just crushing it on social media. And I can tell you, I've had many guests on here. I've interviewed many different influencers. I'm so excited to ask you so many of these questions because your answers not only are great, they're different. And that's unique because in this world of everybody watching the same videos, it's kind of like easy to become the same as everybody. So why don't you share a little bit about yourself that I didn't cover to the audience? And let's say hi to the Dharma Nation as well.
Yes, Dharma Nation, first of all. Can't do anything without them. So a little bit about me. That was a very amazing summary. I guess the main story I had that maybe not a lot of people know is I started YouTube when I was like 9 or 10. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that because technically you have to be 13. But anyways, yeah. I was 13 when I started YouTube. And I played with dolls and I would make films. I never knew I could make money. Funny enough, currently I make videos and do a lot with e-commerce. Mm-hmm. But even when I was 9, I didn't even know what e-commerce was, but I was making doll videos and selling dolls online. And I didn't realize what I was really doing is marketing and then creating like a store. So at a young age, I knew that that's what I like doing. I like creating products, but I also like marketing it. And then now I'm 18 years old. I did leave high school like 2 years ago, but I get to say the same thing, which is I'm doing the same thing that I did when I was younger and was my dream to do for a when I was younger, I wasn't getting paid full time, but I think my 9-year-old self would be very proud for where I am today.
Definitely. We might actually show a clip of your 9-year-old self. That's so crazy that that's how young you were. And obviously, that's how you started. But tell us a little bit about the business side of things, because it is amazing that at such a young age, and again, I just have to give you a lot of respect, and this is why I'm mentioning your age, because some people, they're a little shy about that. Yeah. But correct me if I'm wrong, are you 18 years old?
Yes.
Okay, so Jade is 18 years old, And that is nuts because you've done so much from that time you dropped out at 16. So tell us about what your day looks like, not just as a YouTuber and an influencer, but as a businesswoman.
Oh, I'll show you guys actually.
Yes, show us
Let
what's
me
going
run
on.
it down. So I'm obsessed with planning Google Calendar. Do you use Google Calendar?
Me, all the way.
Yeah, so I plan it per hour to the point where like I mark where I like eat and poop. So basically, I wake up around like 5:30. I'm a huge like I like running and walking and doing that stuff. But typically, I will journal my day. I try to stay away from doing routine work and try to like outsource it. And I'll tell you more what I do. But like I try my best to plan 3 goals in my day. What do I really want to achieve as a lying goal, and then I'll create tasks. So for the morning, like from 9 a.m. to 12, it's the first goal, 1 to 3, and then 5 to 9 or whatever, how long. So I find that creating 3 goals and then putting tasks underneath it versus just like putting all these small to-do lists helps me. So my first goal I've been working on right now actually has been working on my YouTube channel. I'm trying to create more original content, like educational with entertainment. So I'll spend like the morning filming. So that's a little bit my day. And then from the afternoon, it's mostly stuff that really does drive the income. For me, I've been working on a couple e-commerce stores. Actually, the documentary is launching a few brands for some influencers. And then in the afternoon, sounds like kind of like I go to my secret lab. But in reality, I go to my next door and my dad Leon and I are working on software. Basically, we want to create a way for creators to be able to engage better using text message. So I film, I build, and then I go into my lab and create some technology. So that is my day.
Yeah, and I totally believe it. Number one, because I've seen a lot of your videos and it's pretty obvious. But, you know, content speaks for itself because between the videos and all your posts on Instagram, and also we're going to be working together as well, like on a special project too. So what's crazy is I'm seeing the behind the scenes. You know, a lot of people, they'll talk a lot of talk, but they're not actually doing anything, right? And they almost kind of like have that Instagram life. Like people strive to have a certain look. But then, you know, you dive into the behind the scenes, or we were talking about screen time, right? And all they're doing is watching Netflix or YouTube or whatever. They're not hustling. And I know you're hustling. So thank you so much for making time to let us interview you. But anything else you want to talk about before we dive into some best practices for YouTube and just talk about how you got started?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. That's what we're going to do. So, you know, I think what's really important before we get into some best practices for going full-time on YouTube is talking about how you got your start on YouTube, when you first started, and what it was like when you were 16 before you went full-time.
Well, YouTube for me has always been 2 things. It sounds really cheesy, but I genuinely like making videos. There was no money tied towards it. I remember a very distinct moment. It was August 17th, 2016. I don't know. I can make up a day. But there was like 2 years ago, I watched this one video and it was this guy like saying he made money doing like marketing. And I was like, no way. That's so cool. And I kid you not, I woke up, like I was like laying in my bed and I was like, let's do it. So it was for me an instance where in that moment I realized that, okay, I'm making films for fun. I started with like filmmaking. Why not go into educational? And in high school, actually my friend Madeline's here. Shout out to Madeline.
What's up, Madeline?
she knows that like in high school, like I would be known. Actually, I can't even say it, but like I feel like I was known for the Instagram girl. Like really took care of her social media. Even I had no followers. Like I would just love making photos for the art. So I was like, why not make a video about it? So I made a video called How to Grow an Instagram to 10K. And I didn't expect it to hit like 1 million views. And then that brought in like kind of so much opportunity. Like people were asking me for consulting. People were asking me for like older brands, right? Like trying to stay with Gen Z. And I was like, this is insane. And at that time, my dad also saw that growth. So he was trying to help me build more like clients essentially. But yeah, I never expected it. And in the span of 3 months from that video launching, I also dropped out of school. Like everything moved so fast. I honestly can't remember. It's very insane.
Wow, that's so crazy. In fact, That was a lot to digest in terms of what you did at the start. And I probably watched that how to get to 10K on Instagram because I think that's how I got introduced to you. And that what's crazy is the way I met you was we're part of like a special panel at YouTube. I don't even know if this is NDA or not, but we're part of a special group where we actually help YouTube help other creators better. So you and I, Roberto Blake, Tim Schmoyer, and so that's where we met, right?
Yeah.
And I remember sitting next to you during some of the YouTube presentations where really what they're doing is trying to pitch some of their new tools and stuff. And I was talking to you, I was thinking, my gosh, this girl knows a lot. But what I love about you is you were so humble. I mean, I didn't know that much about your channel and what you were doing and all this hustle behind the scenes. I just remember you asked me a whole bunch of questions like, oh, how do you do this and that? And I thought, it's interesting because she's asked me questions even though she already knows what she's doing, right? Like you're open to other people's thoughts.
Yeah.
But then I actually check out your YouTube page. I was looking at your Instagram. I was like, wow, she already knows all this stuff.
Well, I don't think I know. I really don't. I think every day. So my dad is my business partner. I get drilled in my head that you want to be like, how teachable are you? You have to be agile to learn. So in perspective, I feel like I don't know much actually, which is really bad sometimes in certain situations, but I'm always open to learn.
Yeah, well, I think one thing that we should definitely dive into is tips on starting a YouTube channel when you're first starting out. And I do apologize because I don't have my video prompted, but I have an example of one of your early videos, and we're going to actually go ahead and play that right now for the audience to see. A special clip from one of her videos, current videos of her older content right now.
I will actually include my first video ever. It's super embarrassing. It just took a lot of time to get at this point, and everyone doesn't want to see like the hard work behind this channel, so I'll just include a little video.
Hey guys, the reason why I haven't recently updated my videos is because I have a new YouTube account. I'll tell you the behind the story of why I have a new YouTube account.
I love that. Thank you so much for letting me.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you so much for letting me play that because I think people see where you're at today and they feel like that's how they have to start. But when you do that, not only do you humble yourself to show like, hey, there is a beginning, but also there was a lot of growth between some of those early videos and now, and people need to see that. And I think one of the first questions I knew I wanted to ask you that would be really powerful for people watching is, what's your advice for people when they're just starting out on YouTube, whether they've consumed content or they created some stuff and they're starting a new channel, or maybe there's someone that's been trying for a while and it's just not working? What would your advice be for someone just starting out and creating a channel today?
Okay, so I have a very specific person in my head I'm giving advice to. Again, my friend Madeline also. Like I have, Madeline said recently she's interested in starting a YouTube channel. So I'm going to pretend I'm giving advice. I think it's so important, and this might be like very controversial advice, so take it how you want. But I believe the worst thing you could possibly say in that scenario where you're just starting out and maybe have like 2 videos or like you don't even know what you really want to do is niche down. Like for me, it doesn't make sense if you are in a perspective of like you want to try so many ideas. I think the biggest question I get is like, hey Jade, should I make fashion videos? Should I make vlogs? I'm like, make everything. And there's no reason to pick a category when you don't know what you're going to be successful in and what you like. So my best tip, I think I've said this previously, but I really recommend to make videos that you genuinely watch. So write down your like top favorite 10 creators and recreate their top 10 videos. You don't have to even think about SEO because they already did the hard work for you. You want to focus on creating 100 videos really bad because it will help you get momentum. I remember when I was like 10, I didn't have a concept of like SEO because back in YouTube, like I feel like you just create what you want to create, and that helped me so much. Now, like 2019, 2020, everyone's super analytical, which is great, but I feel like it doesn't make sense for someone who's starting out. If you're an established creator with, momentum, that is a part to optimize and double down in, but you cannot optimize too early. I think something I learned from my dad is like, he's like, a lot of people, at least in technology, there's something called premature optimization, which is when you're trying to like become like fancy, analytical, and scale when you're not ready. You'll never reach that point. So you don't want to optimize too early. In weird advice, don't like tie yourself too short, and create videos you genuinely watch, and you can do it by hopping on other people's popular videos.
Amazing. In fact, that advice was echoed recently by Roberto Blake, right? He actually made a video that said, make 100 crappy videos. And I agree with that. When you're first starting, have a lot of forgiveness for yourself. You're not going to be a Casey Neistat right out of the gates. Even Casey, he shows some of his old videos. You got to get there. And part of that is figuring out what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you're actually passionate about, and what maybe you just thought you were interested in just because it was going viral or popular. And I think that is really important. In fact, we're going to play one more clip. I promise we're not going to do all clips, but I think on this note, you talked about make videos you care about that you actually watch, right? Make 100 crappy videos if need be. It's not like that for everybody. But there's this huge mistake on that note of niching, right? Now, this was crazy. We tell people you want to niche down. In fact, I think Sean is the biggest hero for this.
It's his branding.
And to give a little context, again, like I'm not tearing down this idea of niching. We're talking to people that have maybe already made 100 videos, right? They're talking, they already kind of know, but it's interesting because this perspective of yours for beginners, I think is so important to actually show. So we're going to play that clip where you talk about this, and I definitely want to dive into it.
I think most people aren't ready to find their niche, because what a niche basically does to you is limits who you are to figure out your branding. And I'm going to be honest, guys, if you talk to any artist in the music industry that has their branding, like Ariana Grande or Miley Cyrus or anyone you look up to, and you ask them like genuinely, how do you feel that your management is giving you song lyrics? Or how do you feel that your presence online is in a certain view? They're gonna say, I'm depressed as fuck, because you can see every single Disney star rebel out of their mold and shell that like Disney gives them because they feel out of place and it's not who they are. I think so often we're glamorizing the process of finding a niche when honestly it's one of the saddest things. You lose your freedom. Why are we trying to optimize and like essentially copy and paste what works to find our niche when creating is about expressing who we are and being authentic to ourselves?
Yeah, so I think this is probably one of the freshest perspectives that you brought into my life that I'm really valuing right now to give to other people, because I also tell people to niche down. I also agree though, because I've been on this for 10 years and I've seen YouTubers get burnt out for this exact reason. So it's not just for the beginners. I think that in the beginning, it is important to make sure to know what it is that you actually love to do before niching down, because you could go crazy. But then also be open to, after you've done this for a while, to not be like isolated to that niche, because you will feel like a slave to that subject matter and you'll be afraid to experiment, which is so important to stay relevant. Because I mean, it's the same. It's like not just niching down on a platform, like use other platforms. Let's drop some wisdom on people on that. When you see yourself talking about that, where does that come from? And what advice do you have people on this note?
Well, it's so weird because I feel like I just like fell in this marketing world, right? Like I started with films, playing with dolls, and suddenly I'm like, it's kind of weird and I respect it, but I'm like, okay, Jade, the social media marketer, that's your branding. So literally for like, I would say a year, I was like, you know what? That is my branding. So, you know what? We went from like the optimized thumbnails to the same, and then like the same, and then probably, you know, the same keywords, tags. And I like blew up. And I mean, probably not too much, but like, that's how I grew my channel. I would post a video every single day for like 5 months. I actually enjoyed it a lot, but then I look back and now that was a year ago and I look at my channel, I'm like, that does not look like me. Like I don't, day to day, I'm kind of like the sporadic person that's super creative. I never showed that side. And I, not to sound dramatic, but I genuinely, that's the minute I start to realize that my videos don't express who I am, like I just got disengaged. And the funny thing is I didn't listen to myself. I kept making these videos because I was like, this is my niche. This is successful. I'm getting views. And then you start to hate yourself. And then you're just like, oh, I'm bored. And boredom's a real thing. I haven't even been doing it too consistently too long, so I can't even imagine how Benji feels. I mean, like, do you think there's a scale at which it's like experimental versus finding a niche? Like, is there a scale or balance?
Definitely. I think it's unique to each person. But I agree that there is a balance between the two. You mentioned this in some of your other videos that I was binge watching, where you say you don't want to niche down at the beginning. You want to just create freely, express. I mean, as cliche as that sounds, like it's important to do that. And then when you find something that works, both that you love and other people love too, you double down on that, right? So that percentage changes over time. And then one day what happens, it gets competitive in that niche and other people are creating content.
You're forced out of it.
Yeah, you're kind of forced out of it. And guess what? Experimental stage. Yes. So that experimental percentage is going to be bigger, is going to be more during those times. So that makes sense. How that bar changes from time to time. I think you can't have these set rules. I think that is the number one thing I tell people that isn't talked about enough. So we're talking about don't niche down as one of the fresh perspectives. I say there's no rules to YouTube.
There's literally no rules.
Yeah.
There's no magic sauce.
Yeah. And I think one of the examples of this is Mr. Beast, right? Everything he was doing, and I know that he's an analytical guy and dives into data and he's looking at audience retention and watch time, all that kind of stuff.
Smart.
But in the beginning, I think he literally just like, you know what? I'm just going to do these random things that I think people are in love. And, you know, if he was talking to Sean and I, we might not have necessarily like said, oh, this is the way to go. And if you look at his beginning, it's like all kind of all over the place. But having no rules is so important because you might fall into something greater than everybody else who is following the rules.
I also think like at the end of the day, the reason why you're able to have no rules is because at the end of the day, people just watch other people. You want to be authentic and human. If you're starting to become super analytical and like, I don't know, essentially becoming super optimized, people get bored. And the reason why I think being able to experiment and also still be consistent in some seasons is you want to be unpredictable because that's what gets attention. So you basically need to be authentic to yourself. It's like a key priority. There's no question to it. And if it requires you to experiment more and go outside the box, your channel might not suffer, but like take a hit. But it's what you have to do for long term.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and I think we would definitely want to dive into some actual tips, right? Like, what are like the few tips? I just first want to give some shout outs to people on here. We've got a lot of people watching right now, so what's up, Dharma Nation? We got Jessa, we got Sparks family, the Swedish car guy, we got L Lover C, we got Shelbo. What's up, Sean? Again, we got Romy, Downshift. Again, thank you guys so much for your support and all the super chats that are coming in. What's up, Roberto? Thank you.
Roberto!
Thank you for the super chat. Roberto Blake dropping some wisdom bombs. I can't wait to have you on this show, by the way, one of these days. And so Caleb, Digital Life, Michael, part of the members group, thank you so much for your super chats. But okay, let's dive into some of the best practices, right? Rather than just giving some tips, let's just like talk about what are the best practices when it comes to starting a YouTube channel and getting to full time as quick as possible. Now, you and I both know, right? The huge disclosure. This is going to take longer than you expect for most people. Mm-hmm. There is the opportunity to do this really quickly. I mean, like if you have everything, all your ducks in a row, and you're optimizing, and you're committing like 80 hours of really smart work, and you're improving like crazy, you could do this in a month or in 6 months, right? But we don't know where you're at in your journey. But if you were to talk to someone random, right, and you got a little bit of context and you know that they're just starting out, maybe they've uploaded like 20, 30, 50 videos, what would be your advice for best practices on YouTube?
So, okay, this is where we're getting spill the tea.
I love it. Spill the tea.
Okay. So YouTube, and this is only from experience and a little bit, maybe we're NDA, but a little bit from the YouTube community. Like YouTube's platform does not penalize you for like overall channel health. It typically will grade you per video, which means experiment. Because say you have a video that's 100,000 and 1K, it will not decline your channel. And I feel like so often people are scared and have a perfectionist mindset. So my first tip goes to, create to publish, not create to be perfect. You want to get your video out there, and you want to be you want to fail fast. I think it's like Mark Zuckerberg's fail fast and break things. You want to fail as soon as possible because you're going to do that anyways. So remember that people are like, oh, my engagement level. It's like, no. And on YouTube, at least specific, it won't penalize you. And what I find is like, it will allow you to actually find more viral content because you're experimenting. So don't play it safe because you don't have to. I don't know if you have anything to add on to that.
No, I think that that's a great thing to dive into a little bit more because I love what you mentioned. The algorithm now is smarter than just like looking at your channel and kind of punishing you because your last upload. I think what YouTube wants to do, the algorithm, truly, get great content in front of people that want that content. Yeah. So say one day you definitely just want to announce something that's super casually, maybe is a little off topic, and then that doesn't get a lot of views, but then your next video is optimized to a topic, right? It's super focused. It's fire. Like every second is just entertaining and keeps people's attention. And people like would watch 10 or 20 minutes, depending on the length. The algorithm wants to put that in front of people. Yeah. So if the title and the thumbnail are relevant, so I think it's a great first point because a lot of people, and so this is the pressure. Sean and I tell people you want to really focus on quality every single upload. Yeah. However, right, don't in the beginning, especially in the beginning, and we're talking to a lot of beginners here, don't be afraid to experiment because you need to know what works for you. Everybody's personality is different. The audience you're going to connect with and how that dynamic is going to be. So if you just copy other people, right, which I think is great for practice and to learn, like I love what you mentioned about optimization. They've already done all the heavy lifting. In fact, I was doing this before. I was like, okay, if I want to rank for this thing,
I just searched up another video.
What are other people? I mean, of course I can do this because Sean's a co-founder, but I just look at Sean's videos, right? I mean, he's the one that does all of this stuff for us. But yeah, I totally agree with that.
And yeah, I think, are we going to a second tip?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think something that came up to me at least, because it's really bad. Like my attention span is so bad. And maybe that's just the way I grew up with like TikTok, 15 seconds. It got to a point where I can't even watch a YouTube video without skipping or 2x speed. It's very bad. I'm probably your audience's worst nightmare. Like I'm the one that's like dropping off. So because of that, I have a lot of empathy for my videos. I'm like, if I cannot sit with my own videos, how will someone watch it? Mm-hmm. So I have a rule, and I recommend this not for people earlier on because you will overthink this. If you're new, do not listen to this. A minute and a half is a key component to add something. So what does that mean? Every 90 seconds, if there's nothing going on, which means there's not a problem or tension in the plot, there's not a funny joke, you're not being entertaining, no, people are going to drop off. And I've seen that. And the biggest thing with YouTube is like not views, it's like watch time, right? And the best like hack or thing I would say is every 90 seconds, which means if you have a 10-minute video, make sure you have like spread out really good, funny facts. And that's why I think entertainment is so important. I'm sorry, but most people are really boring and I can't sit through it. I rather Google read or search it or like, I don't know, ask Alexa, right? So basically a lot of people, they're really good at adding like facts and stuff, but you need to actually space it out properly to level out your watch time. And the minute you do that, you're going to find that that's going to increase views. YouTube's going to promote it more, suggest it more.
I think I just wanted to add to that real quick. I think that's one thing that I think is really important that people understand is being entertaining also doesn't have to be just you, right? Like, so this video is a great example. We're showing some B-roll.
Yes, break it up the visuals.
One of the things I like that you do too is like you make moments in your videos extra entertaining by the zoom in, right? Or you'll speed up your voice or slow down your voice. So those things really important because again, that audience retention is going to be capitalized on when you keep that as a focus for your videos, right? Like you're always keeping their attention front and center when you're creating the content, both when you're recording and you're editing. And you don't have to rely on literally just the, what do you call it? Just you yourself. Because some people, like you said, I mean, definitely some videos are boring. I think everybody's uniquely entertaining. You just have to know what that is. But remember, there's other tools there for you to do that. Anything else you want to add to that? Sorry, I like cut you off.
Yeah. I think I used to have this mentality where, and just to finish up this thought about watch time, I used to have the mentality which is like make a long video as possible. But I realized, and this is just like a month ago, I just talked with my editor about this. I'm like, let's cut out as much as possible before making the video confusing, which is really interesting, right? Because I would get a video back that's 10 minutes. And typically I was like, all right, I want to get monetized, so let's keep it 10 minutes. But I realized I was taking a hit on my watch time.
Yeah.
So what I decided to do is like, let's actually take out as much of stuff before it becomes like the plot becomes confusing. And we got the video down to 6 minutes, which is kind of scary. But then we learned from it. It's like, what can we do to make it more creative? And I think there needs to be that honest conversation where are you just talking to fill up noise, or are you trying to add value, or are you trying to really provide entertainment to someone?
Yeah. Love it. So the first tip being, don't be afraid to experiment, right? Really important to know that the algorithm wants to promote great content. Secondly, make sure that you're entertaining people. And I love what you said at the end there. It's not just about entertaining and trying to like expand that to the longest video possible. Take out all the fluff, right? Like there's a lot of stuff like people just breathing, you know, like
I cut out all the I want to like jump cuts.
when Judy edits the vlogs, it's like ADD mode. Like sometimes I watch them like, you only use like 10 seconds of my 10-minute vlog. Is like, well, yeah, all the other stuff was boring, right? Having that objective perspective. So what would be a quick third tip? And when I say quick, just like what would be the next thing that you think people should focus on, or people just don't realize is an important factor for a YouTube channel?
Okay, this one is very exciting because I just learned it too. I'm in this group chat, and basically it's a bunch of other YouTubers. So I also learn from perspectives. And in my experience, everybody thinks, I'm getting really loud, everybody is in competition with each other or thinks they're in competition with each other. There's like the only way to grow, I believe, is like actually working together. And here's why. If you say you have someone who's in a similar niche as you or similar category, everyone's like, oh, geez, they're copying my video ideas. But you have to understand, YouTube is not smart enough to know what exactly to recommend people. Like, they're not going to recommend you the video because they, I don't know, obviously they collect certain data, but they're not going to know off the bat. They only know by your watch history. Have you ever seen on YouTube, it's like this, if you watch video influencers, you might like this channel too.
I was just going to talk about that because today I did that with our vlog channel. I was just scrolling through our own videos, and at the bottom said, if you like It's Judy's Life, these are other channels we would recommend. And they were all friends of mine, people that I've met or I've collaborated with. So great. I mean, like, and I've known that in the past. It just stuck out to me literally yesterday when I was looking at it. So yeah.
So if anyone's, because I'm very competitive, so like I had this issue where I was like, I'm not gonna collab, or like I'm not gonna let like mention even someone else's video, or like try to engage in that conversation. So the minute I did this, which is my strategy with this, is like you don't need to like make a video every single time with your like whatever your people in your niche, but like YouTube needs to cluster you in that audience segment. And the easiest way to get YouTube to basically say channels like this, watch channels like this, is to do something called backlinking on YouTube. I just learned this actually pretty recently. What I do is if I get inspired by a certain video, and this is why it's so important to do your research on what videos you like, because at the end of the day, there's going to be people like you. So say you make those 10 channels that you really love and you want to be clustered in that. Say you got really inspired by this creator and you're in the video saying, hey guys, I got really inspired by, Casey Neistat. I put his link in the description box. YouTube will see that if they do click that link, that backlinking or that like viewer history will start to over time cluster you. And if you're doing this at least once a week, I have no doubt that over time, YouTube's gonna get really smart and start recommending your videos in the right way. Everybody's talking about SEO and like search and optimizing, but then like YouTube is doing the heavy lifting for you by suggesting. And I almost say like SEO is great for 10% of your traffic, but let's be honest, you're not gonna get 2 million views on a heavily searched topic, right? It's mostly search that drives a lot of recommendation. And I find the best way is through clustering. So you can try backlinking, and also you can just try to talk to the people in your category, like make collabs with them, videos like this, meet them, be friends with them, and show that there are connections, because you have to understand that your audience is shared. So why not be a part of that process in the beginning?
I think one of the key points that you mentioned that is contradictory, but it's absolutely true, is YouTube is doing the heavy lifting for you in terms of on the platform for your video. And this is why these days, and we just literally heard this when we were at YouTube, the thumbnail and the title are really the most important factors outside of the content itself. Yeah. However, still the AI is still too dumb in terms of understanding what other channels relate to you through the data, because what's interesting about people, and when you connect with other people, whether it's collaborate with them or they're in your videos or they're sharing your stuff and you're sharing their stuff, is you're connecting with people that have a certain chemistry that vibe with you, which probably will vibe with your audience, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to like break down what I just said, but the way you describe collaboration is something I've literally never talked about on this channel or even heard anybody discuss. Because most people, when they think collaboration, they're just like, oh, I want to collaborate with the biggest channel possible. What you want to do is collaborate with the channel that makes the most sense for your content, for your audience, and vice versa, and start where you're starting. If you need to collaborate with somebody and say you've got 100 subscribers, don't go for 100,000 subscriber channel. Look for the person that, always better to get into the 1,000 if you can, or the tens of thousand. You get what I'm saying? Like, start where you start. And this is the thing. Those people, they're hustling too. The true people that succeed, they're not looking at your channels like, oh, like you said, you kind of had this idea, but once you figure it out, you know what, this is actually important. This is going to actually help me. And they bring something to the table. Maybe I can't. I mean, like I see a lot of your videos, and what's amazing is the dynamic. You say it's your friends or your team, but I look at these amazing collaborations. I wish we downloaded that video. You had a music video, and how many?
No.
We're not going to show that. But how many of those people were influencers or YouTubers, or brought some kind of skill that you didn't have?
Oh my goodness. So I have to give some backstory. So last summer, me experimenting with content, I made a music video. It has 100,000 streams on Spotify. Do not listen. But you can listen to it if you like. It's pretty good. Anyways, so the friends in my videos were genuinely people I met at VidCon. We became really good friends, and I would never, ever, I'm very insecure about this actually. I don't want to ever use my friends as like a pawn game to get me something. But let's just say, because of this friendship, my business has grown so much. One of them became a really close client of mine for e-commerce. And it's out of true, genuine relationship. But I definitely think collaborations start really transactional and businessy, but they transform into something greater. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And, we're going to dive into some Q&A after the broadcast. So make sure, just stay tuned, everybody. But one of the things I want to do is just give a quick shout out. Again, Roberto, thank you for supporting us. And Roberto says, I'm telling people to treat YouTube like a sport. Also, Jade, I've added sound design to every 30 to 60 seconds and exploded retention.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Wait, what sounds? I'm curious to know. Tell me what sounds.
Let us know, Roberto. Ray, thank you for the super chat. Michael, again, thank you for supporting us with another super chat and tier talk. And I feel like I probably owe you lunch after this. The whole team will go out and we'll have some, because literally everybody is loving what you're talking about.
Really?
So make sure you guys leave questions. We want more questions in the comments area. But
wait, hold up.
What?
This is a YouTube hack that I feel like you're doing. You're a very thankful man.
Oh.
And I think that's one of the things that's unique too, is you have to feel like you have to, strategies 101, but show your audience that you're thankful. Even if you have one person watching. I used to have meetups, and my mindset was, if one person shows up, it's a meetup. I don't have an expectation for millions of fans. And I think that's super important thinking, which I just witnessed right here. So take notes, guys.
Well, thank you so much. Not to echo what you just said, but it's interesting you brought that up, because quick announcement now that I can make it public, but my wife and I were expecting our next child. and that's a big deal. And we just announced it to our audience yesterday. And so it's not the first time that we have 3 beautiful daughters, and we shared that whole experience with people. But yesterday when we put out the vlog, it was just an announcement video, talking head, really simple. It was amazing the love that we received. It sounds super cheesy, but it was probably one of the greatest feelings that Judy and I had from our YouTube audience in a long time. Now, they always are showing us appreciation, but not to this level. So I bring that up not to mention or give a shout out to that vlog where we talk about announcing it. Today on my Instagram, I literally kind of wrote a letter showing all my gratitude to our audience, like thanking them.
Yeah.
And so it's normal for me because Judy and I would not be here if it wasn't for our viewers.
Yeah.
From the first viewer Judy had when she was putting on makeup, and you mentioned that you remember Judy from the old days.
Oh yeah, it's Judy time.
And once we started vlogging, Judy, I remember she celebrated her first 400 subscribers.
Wow.
Now with 1.6 million subscribers.
Wow.
Every single one of them. And I think this is just a bonus tip for people that seems so obvious.
Yeah.
But you can do this both when you first start, and you definitely should do it as your full time, or you're doing this as an influencer.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for your audience, like where would we be?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, so literally everything we do, it's not the content itself, it's people consuming it and the attention they give us. I always thank people for their time. Even the fact that I thanked you early on, was like, hey, thank you for putting us into your crazy busy Google Calendar schedule, right? And putting us on the calendar. And I know that gratitude, not only for them, but just the gratitude I have in myself, it always makes us relevant. Because again, we don't look at a view as just like a opportunity to get AdSense or sell something.
Yeah.
We're like, there's another human on the other side of this. And if you remember that, it actually influences everything you do. So gratitude is the beginning of everything. Yeah. And that's why I love YouTube so much. Like, I literally get emotional talking about YouTube. I know so many of the YouTube employees when we're there. Like, I don't know if you noticed, half the time I wasn't even in the room. I was like meeting all these employees I met.
Benji's popular.
No, I've done this for so long, and literally I'm not trying to like have meetings or create opportunities. I'm just thanking everybody. I was giving away my book, YouTube Secrets, to them. I was like, the reason I was able to write this book with Sean is because of all those people. Yeah. So, well, number one, I appreciate you giving me credit for that. Anything you want to add to that? I mean, I pretty much covered it, but it is a big point that people forget.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, be open to new strategies. It's kind of weird. There's like so much new stuff, like backlinking. I just learned that 3 months ago. There's going to be stuff with collaborating. At the end of the day, the core that never fades away is being grateful. It sounds so cheesy, but like it's so important. And that's timeless.
Absolutely. So I'm looking at the doc. I'm seeing if there's some questions. I think the last thing I want to dive into before we go into the Q&A section is, and by the way, are you good on time right now?
Good.
Okay, sweet. The other question I want to ask you is about making money. So going full time isn't just literally quitting whatever you're doing, quitting high school, and then like doing this full time. Like, you got to make a living. You got to pay the bills. So the number one question I have on this topic is, what are your thoughts about making money? I know that sometimes it's taboo, but I believe one of the reasons that people appreciate this channel is because we don't make it taboo. We say, heck, okay, it's not good to be premature when asking people to buy something. There's a certain timing and a balance to it. However, it's absolutely necessary for you to at least think about it in the beginning or have a plan, or eventually get to a point where you're making money. Like, don't just pray that AdSense is going to fall into your account, right?
No.
Like, even though that could potentially happen, it's for so few people. So let's dive into actually making money. Like, how have you been able to monetize, and what are your tips for people?
Yeah. The other day I was Googling my name, when you're in your board. It's someone like wrote down an article. My net worth was like 500 million. I was like, where's that money? Where is that money? I would love to know. But no, I definitely have gotten, I would be lying if I didn't say did get very lucky with the businesses that have grown. So like you said, I actually use AdSense as more like of a nice thing to have. I never ever relied on it. So I guess the main majority of how I was able to go full time, and it's in reality, everyone has a different definition of full time, right? Like full time is being able to pay your bills and live. But I'm like happy living in a tent. Like my life has been dedicated to reinvesting into the business. I don't even pay myself a salary. Like I'll just reinvest as anything. And because of that, like I can be transparent in what I've done. So when I was 16, which sounds kind of crazy, but I basically knew I wanted to make, let's just say my first like $5,000 or something. Because when I was younger, I knew a concept about making money, but I never was able to make it full time. So for the first, let's just say $5,000, right? I did ask mom and dad. I'm like, you know what? I need a camera. I need to start somewhere. So I was like, my dad I'm so glad he told me this and taught me this. Instead of giving me a camera, I was kind of mad at the beginning, but he's like, you have to pay this back at a 30% interest rate. I'm like, Dad, are you kidding?
That's crazy. I think that's against the law.
Oh,
No, I'm just kidding.
no, but it taught me to basically find ROI and things. If you're gonna spend $5,000 on a camera, like what are you gonna get out of it? And he was like, make a plan, make a 3-month plan. And I was like, okay, so this is my plan, at least when I was 16. So I worked with a lot of people who wanted to grow Instagram. And I basically was like, you know what? Let's throw a dart out there. I'm $20 an hour. I just like threw a dart. And then I got like one person. I'm like, Dad, I am rich. Okay, no. And then I raised it to $40. And then my client was like, no, that's not worth it. I was like, okay, maybe we'll throw it back. So then I literally did 100, I'm not joking, 100 free phone calls. And I made something called the Ask Jade Show. What I didn't know what I was doing is marketing myself to build trust and credibility. And from there, my channel grew and grew to like, I think 200,000 or wherever it was. And from there, I literally stopped doing hourly and started doing projects. So like the first, I guess, month, I made $75. Yeah, that's right. I was balling. Yeah, okay. And and then I decided to actually make less money and do things for free. And people are scared of doing things for free. I was young, so I was like, let's go. My family doesn't come from much. So I'm like, let's get in it. So I did that for 5 months. And from there, I think what I've realized is I've started to understand the patterns of people's problems and build products around it. So for example, most recently, now I would say my main 2 income sources comes from one, my father, who is my business partner, works with a lot of e-commerce brands. He's really smart at building technology and Shopify stuff, but I'm probably, knock on wood, but more in tune to like marketing. So we work together on consulting. And these like, I guess I can't disclose the name, but one of our clients recently went from when we started with them like 300,000 a year to 7 million in revenue, which is very interesting to see. And I can't take credit for it. It's like us together. So we do a lot of one-on-one consulting. And most recently, the second source of income, it actually has been a little bit of YouTube. Like I definitely say like, I would look at AdSense as like, there's no worth to it, but there's definitely a way to monetize. I have been recently taking brand deals, but that actually resonate with me, not just to sell myself short and try to integrate them in a new way. I was actually thinking to do a video called like I get a sponsorship to fund my startup or something. Because the whole goal again is like I try to go full time, not necessarily for me, it's just to reinvest and grow. So that's like the 2 main income sources, I would say. It primarily was just doing a lot of stuff for free, literally bleeding money and then finding payoff at the end. And it takes a lot of courage to do so.
And you're 18 years old.
And now I'm 18.
No, that is just mind blowing. I'm thinking I've always been ambitious, even when I was 18, but I definitely didn't quit high school to pursue anything. In fact, I would have been afraid to. Partly it's like, well, you had a supportive father, which I think was a huge factor. I know that support and even that lesson of like, hey, what's the ROI on this before you jump into it? But let's talk about that for people that are about to quit, right? Or maybe they can't quit because they still need their day job, or maybe they're going to school because they're pursuing some kind of field. What would be your tips on actually making money, right? Because you've got a lot of experience in, I guess, different monetization strategies. What would be some of your advice for people just starting out so they can go full time?
Yeah, don't rely on AdSense. That's not the first thing. Second thing, don't even rely on brand deals because again, when you do that, it's reliant on your relevancy and views, which you literally can't control. Like as much as I'd like to say like follow SEO tips, like no, like it's a lot of it is luck and timing. So if there's immediately cash, I would say like you really only need to build a product that's helpful to say 10 people and at least make a little bit more money, at least like 10% more money building it, and then you can repeat it. So I always say for me, it took me literally a lot of free calls to find out what my product was that's valuable. You might have to do that as well, and it might mean you had to stay with your job for a long time. I have to be honest, I've actually never, have you had a full-time job before?
Yeah, when I first started, when I first started working, I picked strawberries.
Oh.
So that was a full-time
Yes.
job. I
Okay.
barely made anything because I ate almost all the strawberries.
Oh my God.
And then my second job was working at a restaurant, and that wasn't a full-time job. That was a part-time job, but I was like washing dishes or whatever. And then my third was a true full-time job. I worked at a YMCA with kids. That was a full-time job. But even when I was there, I'd say the restaurant one was a closer to a typical. When I was working at the YMCA, I literally controlled my time, and my boss knew this. Now, his boss back then, if heard all this, probably would have fired him back then. But I worked 50, 60 hours because I loved it, but also I had control of my time. So I was already kind of like an entrepreneur.
Intrapreneur.
Intrapreneur. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a
Yes.
thing. I just learned something. So yes, I've had a typical job, but I've always thought like an entrepreneur, even when I was in a job.
Yeah, I mean, so I've never had a full-time job. I actually I'm also, when I was like 15, right, like I was thrown in this world. So I never had time to really like take a breath, like, oh, I don't know if this is this is a typical path. I just thought this is my path. So I never really had a second thought. So I don't actually have great advice on that. But if it comes to dropping out of school, okay, this is the advice I have. I get a lot of friends now. They're like, Jade, you inspire me to drop out. Like, wait, what did I do? But in reality, I didn't leave school. I just stopped showing up. And in reality, I over time just started to prioritize my business and YouTube. And then maybe miss one class, and then I make more YouTube videos, and then miss 3 classes, and then miss a week, and then months, and then a year. And then suddenly my school calls me, I'm like, Jade, where'd you go? I was like, oh yeah, I did. Did I tell you? This is a true story. They didn't know I actually left school. So I don't know where this is leading me towards, but what I'm trying to say, for me, it wasn't a distinct decision. It's all about prioritizing your time and where do you want to spend your time? What gives you energy? And for me, it was YouTube. It was making videos and building a business. And I never thought about, like, my intention is not to be a dropout, although it makes really good branding, to be honest. But it has always been to focus on what I love. And it's just not school for me. And that's just not who I am. And some people do enjoy it. So if you're quitting your job, you don't have to be hung up on the title or the title of dropping out. It's just, what do you want to focus your time on? Because people will label you. And I think that's where people overthink it, because they don't want to seem lower or kind of like unrespected. But if you just say like, hey, I'm focusing on things that I actually like, no one can say anything to that.
Yeah.
So I would say stay away from the title and just focus on things you like.
It's amazing. All the advice, it is going to a point. I think most people are looking for something direct, like, okay, what kind of course should I create? Or
Oh, really?
What kind of,
Sorry,
what
I'm
kind
not
of
helpful.
brand deals? No, I'm going to explain. So the 3 things I heard from there, right? Number one, well, I'll reverse engineer it, but you mentioned prioritize your time on something you love doing and make sure it's something that's productive. So most people, they're wasting their time away on unproductive things. So I think that's a huge lesson. Think about so number one, you got to create content. If you're going to be on YouTube, you got to create content, right? Secondly, if it comes to monetize, make sure you're spending that extra time that you do have, which is probably not very much if you're a YouTuber and you're just starting out, on things that will actually make you money. I think that is something that a lot of people forget to do because they're trying to do everything. And when you're just starting out, I think that's really important. What were some of the other things that you mentioned before that? My mind went blank there.
Yeah, I think the first thing was like, don't rely on AdSense. Or don't rely on things you can't control. There's things that you can control and things you can't control.
Yeah.
What you can control is delivering value to people.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be a product. Like, yes, you can make a course in a book, but imagine you're like, you just have a really pretty face, okay? You can deliver value to a brand that needs that face. And sometimes it requires a lot of free work building portfolio.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a course. I think the reason why I didn't dive into that is because I personally was molded into this like marketing world, and I've purposely not launched a course because I personally just don't learn that way. And I felt like I was not being genuine to who I am. So I'll just build other products that feel good to me.
Yeah. So I remember the first point on that note too was, if I had to sum it up, live beneath your means, or don't, think that you need a certain amount of money. In fact, in the beginning, you can bootstrap and you can lower your expenses. Like literally, one way to go full time is don't go to Starbucks all the time, right?
We went to Starbucks.
Don't buy all these other things. That's not going to help you on this path in the very beginning. So I always say a dollar saved is a dollar earned. So if you can save money, it gets you closer to that path so that you can focus your time on something productive that actually makes you money, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a point that a lot of people forget because they think they need $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 to live. Well, what if you actually moved to a smaller apartment and had less overhead?
Oh, yeah.
Huge. What about rather than leasing a really nice car, you just buy something, like don't drive at all. Like literally, Uber just when you absolutely need. Another thing too is like, you can give up your gym membership and just start running around the neighborhood. I'm not kidding. This is for real stuff. Because actually, I used to be broke too. When I first moved out, I was 19 years old. I moved out in a tiny little apartment. Me and my roommate at the time, we had literally no furniture in our living room.
Really?
Yeah, it was just crazy. We would sit on the floor and we had a TV on this ghetto, like used like TV stand. And I love those days because it let me work at this dream job of mine, right? Where I was an entrepreneur. And the YMCA doesn't pay a lot, but I was doing what I love. I had full control of my time, and that was enough. And because of that time freedom, I was able to explore other businesses part-time. And this is way before YouTube. Yeah. So I think that it's something that people are literally overlooking because for whatever reason they're married to this idea of like, I need this lifestyle.
Yeah, but also at the same time, I have to contradict and make it interesting for the audience to debate. No, I'm joking. What do I know? Like I'm 18, so like I don't know life to the extent. But what I have seen in my short lifespan is that time is more important than money at the end of the day. Like, yes, be cheap. I'm really cheap. But at the same time, like if you can spend extra dollars outsourcing, or if you can quit your job, make a little less, right? But you spend time doing what you like. The only reason why I say this is because recently, like me and my dad, I call him Leon. Me and Leon have been talking, and he's openly said to me, he's like, Jade, like it's crazy when you look. My dad's 50. It's crazy when you look behind you and you realize that the road ahead of you is shorter. And I'm like, whoa, like I'm going to be 18 and then I'm going to be 20, then I'm going to be 30, and then it's going to all happen. So I think I realized there's also a value of time. So if you can maybe, yes, walk, but you maybe take the car to like speed up the process, right? So I think it's a balance of how much do you value your time? Because if you really do value your time, you will not quit your job, but you'll start focusing on things that actually matter.
I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
If I can pay somebody whatever their time's worth for a certain skill that I'm not good at. So say there's something technical that costs you $20 an hour, right?
Fiverr that shit.
Yeah, there you go. Fiverr is amazing. But like if you can pay them, like let's just say $20 an hour for 5 hours, $100. But in that 5 hours, it helps you create like 2 or 3 videos that makes you $125. That's just the beginning of just starting to scale your time.
Yeah.
So absolutely. In fact, in the very beginning, it's funny because I think that it's a good point. Like, by the way, it's ironic because I actually walked everywhere. Where I grew up,
really?
I walked everywhere. I rollerbladed, actually.
Oh,
I was a kid that was always on the rollerblades. I would rollerblade to work, right? To that dishwashing job.
Heelys or like actual rollerblades?
Rollerblade. Oh, wait. Well, they were like inline. What do you call it? Like actual rollerblades, right? Not roller skates.
Not Heelys. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what Heelys are, but I feel really old right now.
Put a picture of Heelys.
Yeah, pull up a picture of Heelys so the other non-Gen Zs can see what those are.
Wait, Mallory, you know what Heelys are, right?
I wore rollerblades, but yeah, I do. Right there. Oh, is that it? Oh, those.
It's like those with the wheels on the bottom.
I see. Okay, well, no. Okay, I live so far away from work that those would break.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
because I would go down this crazy hill. Okay, all right, we're gonna wrap this up. And I just want to ask one question from some super chats. Again, tier talk, it's crazy. This is a great question because I think. For beginners, it's a little bit ahead of you. For people that are at this perfect and even afterwards, I think it's relevant. Tier Talk, again, thank you for your super chat. As best advice, okay, I broke 10,000 subscribers a month ago. Congratulations.
Whoa.
Best advice about how to maintain growth, especially after a video does well.
I think your follow-up time is really important. If you had a viral video that maybe did like 100,000, it is almost crucial that your next video needs to be a similar topic or a series. This is why series are doing so well. If you want to see, I've been trying to experiment with that on my channel. So if that video does well, if you really care about growth, follow up, I would say less than a week. The reason why is because of this. So YouTube, and what I find in my experience is like they're putting out your channel, right? And if they're on the subscription feed and people are scrolling past it, it'll start to like kind of ding you on impressions essentially. So to minimize YouTube from like, kind of preventing you to keep forward, you basically need to follow up with the same video that's similar, whether it's the same title. Do not overthink it. If you already found your potluck in a video, just replicate it. And the reason why is because you need to build trust, especially if it's a new user. You have to build trust in that transition from the first to the second. If YouTube finds that, again, it's all about clustering. If YouTube sees that they're watching this video and the same person's watching the second part, they're going to recommend it to more and more people. So follow-up time is crucial. I've seen a lot of channels fail because their follow-up time is like a month later. And they're like, why didn't it work? Because the user itself got disinterested. It's too late. So give it a week in time span. Like you got to follow up super fast. I did this actually, if you ever want to. It's even crazier on TikTok. So one of this video I made on TikTok got like 500,000 views. And the next video after that, the next day, I just made the same one. And then that video almost got 1 million. So it's all about timing and speed and follow up.
Amazing. Okay, we're going to let you have one more kind of rant or last tip for beginners if you're just starting out on YouTube. But hit that like button if you're enjoying this. Smash it. Share this with somebody that needs to hear this message that's just starting out on YouTube, or maybe just needs to be reminded with a fresh perspective. We always love those likes and those shares. And then comment below with your questions. We're going to be doing Q&A afterwards. We're also, during the Q&A, doing a TikTok and Instagram quick rapid fire. Ooh. But that's not going to be on the evergreen video of this. So join our memberships if you want to have access to that. We're going to go ahead and upload that. But we'll get into that for all of you guys here on the live. But Jade, we've talked a lot about how to get started. I know that we dove into your life and dropping out at 16 and crushing it by the time you're 18. You've got multiple businesses, and we talked about some best practices. We talked about money. I'd say the last thing I think would be really powerful to share is what was like outside of just being busy and really understanding that YouTube was where you wanted to put your time in social media. I think I saw this in a video where, especially when you're young, but it's not isolated to just when you're in high school. I think anybody, there's this fear people have, or judgment, or hate, right? And people, and when we're spilling the tea or whatever, right? We're talking about people literally letting other people's perspective of them stop them from doing something. Because the first, by the way, get YouTube Secrets on Audible and Amazon.
Yes.
But the first chapter, right, of the 7 C's of YouTube success is courage. And it sounds, again, cheesy, but it's so true. The thing that's stopping most people is literally being afraid of something that they don't have to be afraid of. Can you relate to this? Are there any stories that you want to share? And what would be your advice for somebody that is basically so close to getting their start or succeeding, but they let fear stop them?
Yeah, so Madeline, who is my friend from high school, would know this. Like, I think I've kind of just got to the point where I just owned how weird I am. Like, for example, I think one of my biggest insecurities growing up was like, Jade's a little weird. Like I make noises in class. Like I talk a lot. And there's a point where people be like, she's really weird. And I have to be like, at one point, like, you know what? I am weird. And I'm going to own it. Like I already knew that. So I think it's a part of it. It's like, you have to almost like, this is my best advice. It's kind of honestly kind of depressing, but you need to expect the worst. Like my expectations sometimes are like dog schnitz. I don't know what I can guess. Because I realize that like, for example, say I'm posting a video and I'm like, I'm worried that people at school are going to make fun of me and then they're going to say that I'm weird. I almost like, you know what? That's probably going to happen. And I'm okay with it because I'm going to own it. Like, yes, I'm kind of weird and I'm not your conventional person. So that was my mindset. Another mindset people have is like, oh no, I'm scared to post a video and it gets 100 views. You know what? It's probably going to get 100 views, but you're going to get better. And you have to expect and be honest with yourself because at the end of the day, I can't sit here and be like, yeah, hate doesn't matter because it does. It will get to you. I always anticipate the worst comments like, oh, people are probably going to point out my acne. It's probably going to happen, like 50% chance, but you never know until you try. So courage for me is expecting and being comfortable. Like even in that circumstances, I'll be okay. And you have to almost put yourself in those situations and be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Boom. Wisdom is not unique to the older generation like me. Anybody that has the kind of experience that you have, I think, learned something. And I'm glad we kind of ended with that. Stay tuned for the Q&A. You guys, make sure you pick up YouTube Secrets. Go to tubesecretsbook.com to actually get the bonuses you get completely free, and make sure you hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos just like this with other influencers, click or tap the screen right here. If you guys want to see all the content on video influencers, click or tap the screen right here. We'll talk to you later, and thank you so much for subscribing to Video Influencers.